Hey everyone, and welcome back to the news, where once again, of course, we've got a cheery update for Blizzard Entertainment, the top company for whom everything always goes right. Staff have been ousted, the QA department has spoken up, and more sponsors are gone. It all paints a rather grim picture. And we begin with the most recent and perhaps more spicy thing, which is a bunch of names are gone. So Luis Barriga, Jesse McCree, and Jonathan LeCraft have all been let go. Now, this is a notable thing. Luis, Diablo 4 game director. That's like, for a World of Warcraft person, the equivalent of Ian Hazacostas going. So that's big. Luis is a major figure. In many ways as well, he has been the face of Diablo 4, holding down many of its big BlizzCon presentations. Now, also, Jesse McCree is gone. He's a lead designer in Diablo 4. And also, of course, Jesse McCree, the character in Overwatch, which could present Blizzard with some issues. And then there's also Jonathan LeCraft, who is a senior game designer for World of Warcraft. Now, a bunch of people have, of course, been wondering, what about Corey Stockton? Well, Corey Stockton is still with the company, though we don't exactly know what's going on because he was placed on leave last week, according to what Kotaku's sources have said. Now, that probably means he's been placed under... Usually the way this works is they're placed under a paid leave so that an investigation can take place. Either that investigation has came up clean for Corey Stockton, or it's just ongoing. Either way, Blizzard have not publicly announced any big things here. They've just been responding to press comment. So yeah, they haven't really commented on the departures beyond a brief statement that just confirmed that this stuff was happening. So this probably will be reassuring to some people, right? Here's what they said, that they have a deep, talented roster of developers already in place, and new leaders have been assigned where appropriate. They say they're just confident in their ability to continue progress and deliver games for their players and a good work environment for their staff. No reason's been given. No reason's been given. Now, it's the sort of thing where, look, if it was just these guys were at the Cosby Suite, that's why they no longer have a job, I think Corey would be gone already. I really doubt that's what it is. I guess I don't want to speculate, because speculating in a thing like this can kind of get you in a bit of a murky territory. I mean, Luis, what's he done? Nobody knows. But there's a bit of me that just thinks it's probably not just being the Cosby Suite. It's probably also behavior being dug up. But again, I would say we don't know anything, so don't jump to any conclusions, right? Rough enough situation. We don't know with Stockton at all. And as for the people at other studios, I mean, we don't really know what's going on with Greg Street. I imagine that he is fine. I imagine as well, if he had done a bad thing, then certainly all of the incentives and everything would be aligned such that people would speak up about that had he done a bad thing. So perhaps he hasn't. I mean, hopefully he hasn't, because that would be a better world to be in. Now, Blizzard are presented with a tricky problem here, because when they got rid of Alex Afrasabi, well, removing him from World of Warcraft was easy. You just despawn some NPCs, rename some items. With Jesse McCree, though, it is a bit more challenging. If they were going to remove McCree from Overwatch, well, what they have to do is rename the character, change him up, and then re-record a massive amount of dialogue for the game, because, of course, it's Overwatch. Those dialogue barks really matter to the gameplay. So that's kind of challenging. Now, that said, are they going to remove McCree? We would really have no idea. But we should note that a pair of Overwatch League casters referred to the character McCree as the cowboy. So we don't really know, basically, is our situation. And that's it. We have got some heads rolling. Is there really anything else to say other than this is what people would sort of expect?
Not really. Outside of it, kind of really doubles down on what Bobby Kotick was saying, and that, like, no one is safe. If you have been involved or impeded progress or impeded any of these problems, or, you know, like, literally watched them happen and did nothing about them, then you're also in trouble. Because, I mean, getting rid of the game director for Diablo 4, that is going to have serious impact on the game, the way the game has been developed, how the game goes going forward. and how investors feel, because they're like, oh, it's like really, really endemic with the company that you're firing these big name people, even to the point where like McCree is like, oh, the namesake of one of your characters is gone. That shows how serious they're being, in that they're like these are major problems they will have to deal with, especially from a public perspective. But they now actually, you know, they've kind of put their money where their mouth is, in a sense, where they're actually making sure that these people are gotten rid of. And like like you were saying about what, like, not talking about what they've done. It's a case of, like, as Bob was saying, it's if they were impeding the solutions, not necessarily that they were themselves guilty of misconduct, but if misconduct happened, and especially these being senior figures, if misconduct historically happened under them, it was brought to their attention and they didn't take steps to solve it, then they're part of the problem.
So I guess for an example then, let's just say Hazakosis is leading the WoW team. Alex Afrasabi's doing bad stuff. Maybe Ian raises it to management. Stuff like that happens. Then Afrasabi meets Jab. Unfortunately, it's a slap in the wrist. And maybe that's a part of why Jab's no longer there.
Mm-hmm. Perhaps.
But at least in that case, Ian would have done the right thing in his capacity to do so.
Yeah.
And I bring this up because if you'd were to flip that on the Diablo team and they had somebody who was engaging in Afrasabi-like behavior, the game director knew about it and maybe covered it up because it would be, you know, not useful to have that person be implicated in something, then you could sort of see why. Impossible to speculate, but I think that's just the sort of thing that could be going on. Should also say, by the way, the Overwatch League stuff, like, that was just the casters.
Yeah,
to be clear, it wasn't an edict from Blizzard, but there's a lot of players who are calling for that, and seemingly there are Overwatch community members and people who work with the Overwatch League who are kind of not operating as if McCree wasn't called McCree, but they're at least paying lip service to it. So, yeah, rough, but it's going to get rougher because we have our next part of today's story, which is Activision Blizzard's QA department speaking out. Basically, loads of statements and testimonies were provided to Kotaku by the ABK Workers Alliance. And there's a bunch of highlights here, although, of course, it's QA. So you know what it's going to be. Long hours, low pay, instability, people being treated like they are just a replaceable resource. So we've got most work weeks being between 50 and 60 hours, others saying 70 hours, and the pay being terrible. Now, the ABK Workers Alliance didn't share specific salary details other than saying that it's low, but the good news is we've got other stuff. So from Kotaku, one employee said that pay hovers around $14 an hour. $14 an hour. Now, this is interesting when we get into the money. Another person said between 15 and 17 an hour. Somebody who preferred to stay anonymous didn't share, but said that what they are paid, but they said they took a $7 an hour pay cut to get into Blizzard for QA, and it then took them 7 years to reclaim that $7 that they lost, which is pretty damn grim. And Bloomberg recently did reveal that a lot of people, they would get into Blizzard because of the prestige, and the pay cut is something that they would call the Blizzard tax. Now, this is not good stuff. Now, if you look at Glassdoor, it suggests that QA jobs are averaging about a $50,000 a year salary at the national level, but there are testimonies that suggest it's not so good. Now, the thing to really bring up here that's important is how much money this is for the location. So for the jobs in this role that are taking place in California, and I remember actually somebody, it wasn't for Blizzard, it was for Activision, but remember they emailed us, and I think, was it $13?
Yep.
Or something like that. They said they were being paid, and that was like in the LA area, I believe. Now, that's not a lot of money, and it's even worse in that region of the world. And you know, I was looking at some tax calculators, and it seems like if you're in California and it's 50 a year, then you have an effective tax rate of like 18 point something %. And it was interesting comparing it to, basically, we are charged 20% tax here for all earnings under 37.5. That's called a basic rate, and it's 20%. And then anything, we also get a 12.5 grand sort of tax-free personal allowance. And it was just interesting comparing the compensation and stuff, and then thinking about the additional things that these people will have to pay, because it's in the US. And as we're going to cover, the likes of, say, healthcare not being provided by the employer are issues that are faced, okay, not in California, but I believe in Texas. There's issues there with healthcare, let's just say. So it's like, they're taxed sort of similarly to us. They then have got to pay for their own healthcare and also the likes of property. I mean, if people knew how much we paid here in Belfast for rent and then thought about how much it cost them in California, it's way less than half what we will pay here. So it's not only that they're not being paid befitting of the skill and all of that labor, it's that even then for the region it's bad. So there's Billy, a QA tester, who said they can't afford to live on their own. I don't have loans of any sort or children, and I live with my partner, so I think I'm better off than most. But I know many people who literally cannot take time off work right now, despite their mental health being awful, because they won't be able to afford basic necessities such as rent and food. I have to live in a house with at least 3 other people to afford to survive without skipping meals, said another anonymous tester. Even with 4 breadwinning adults in the house, it's difficult to make ends meet while still being available to work for Activision QA. I mean, that's wild, right? QA is really important. I think people who play World of Warcraft know what it feels like for, not to feel like there's anywhere near enough QA going on. I mean, God, love these people. The state of modern Blizzard releases is such that there's no universe where they have a big enough QA department. I don't care what the internal explanations is. The quality of their product is decreasing in terms of like those objective things that QA is supposed to be there to pick up and help resolve. And the poor fuckers who are there are being treated so badly by the company. I mean, no wonder this is awful for the staff and awful for the customers. Now, benefits are also iffy. Health and dental insurance, paid time off, and sick leave. So in the USA, paid sick leave is not mandated on a federal level. It is a state-by-state thing. One of Blizzard's contract studios is based in Texas, which does not mandate paid sick leave. QA testers being mainly on contract means the company's not obliged to give them full-time benefits, plus there's little protection when the contract expires. An employee could be let go, or they could be kept on for a undetermined amount of time, and basically that just means somebody's in a position where they can't financially plan out their future, right? So they're in a trap. Employees say they feel they're eminently replaceable. Kotaku says that this is a recurring theme across many different employee testimonies, that you almost feel the desperation jumping off the page. I mean, this is bad stuff. From Polygon, they basically just say that Activision Blizzard reinforces a misconception that QA is unskilled work, something a monkey could do, according to one source. In reality, they're doing extremely important stuff, as Polygon point out. Yet these workers told Polygon that higher-ups often emphasize to them that real developers are far or more important than QA workers, that the QA people are easily replaceable. And I will definitely tell you that from speaking to current and former staff and people in the industry, yeah, Blizzard's whole thing of raising up their developers and shielding their developers and protecting their developers has absolute toxic bullshit like this going on. There are departments that are not considered to be core development, like QA and stuff. I don't want to say any specific department names, but there's stuff like that where I've at least heard anecdotes of, yeah, the devs treat them like shit and don't respect them. Or, at least institutionally, they're not well respected. And again, as I said, anybody who plays World of Warcraft who knows that, you go to fight. I saw people today tweeting about Mythic Sylvanas. If the world boss is up in the latest zone they added to the game in patch 9.1, if that world boss is up and is being fought, the entire zone will go down. You will actually feel the lag. And for the 4 times that I've went to kill that world boss, I couldn't be bothered anymore, but for the 4 times that I did, it was literally non-functional due to lag. One time its core mechanics didn't work, another time I was waiting like 6, 7, 8 seconds for my spells to go off. I had a perfect connection. It was world lag. This is just examples of World of Warcraft honestly being a buggy piece of shit. I mean, for the last number of weeks, they've been pushing out the new story quests, and there's just been more bugs than are acceptable, right? This tells you that QA is extremely important. yet Blizzard have obviously done a terrible job with it. And these people are not being treated well. You know? I mean, look at this quote. "It's kind of hard to help someone who's telling me to kill myself on a daily basis, all because of a video game. This is a fun situation that's also cropped up, where people are taking out their frustrations at the company on the customer service staff, who absolutely do not deserve any of this shit, because, and here's the big thing, they almost certainly agree with the players and know that the whole situation is a piece of shit. The point is, it's all just the company failing everyone who is involved in this. There's also an issue where basically Blizzard's internal programs always default to people's legal names, and this has resulted for some transgender people, like their old name sort of being, coming up and being used, which is, not the done thing in a situation like that. It's a case of basic professionalism to do all of those things well. Another person reported that teammates refused to use their they-them pronouns, and they got hit with the classic, "I identify as an attack helicopter." And the thing there is, like, the attack helicopter, I mean, it's like a meme from the internet and stuff. That's perhaps how, whatever, I'm going to assume Manchild, who said that, brought it up. The thing is, though, there's a clear separation between the internet and between real life. And, you could make an argument that it's all, funny memes and stuff, the internet. But the thing is, when it enters into real life, almost regardless of what your personal opinion is on something, I mean, surely you're socialized and taught to treat others as you would like to be treated yourself, to treat people with respect. You don't have to agree with somebody to respect them, right? There's like basic levels of human decency that, in this case, nobody said anything to correct it. An employee reached out to HR about more sensitivity training, but didn't hear back for months. To be honest, see all that shit of like, oh, we've got a leadership consultant and a sensitivity training scheme. I am so doubtful that shit works as administering a pill after the problem has happened. But this is the sort of thing. Basic professionalism and decency covers this. At the end of the day, we are all going to have to band together in order to do great work and accomplish great things. And if that's going to happen, then lots and lots of people from different backgrounds are going to have to come together. That's just how it is. Now, a strong sort of, mission-focused company is going to know that it's very important for them to make sure that's all happening with harmony and the decency and professionalism are being applied, because those are the ways that you get lots of people who don't agree on everything to actually band together and to get the shit done that they need to get done. And by doing that, you foster respect and you end up fostering understanding and overall situations being better. But if you let the bullshit happen, you don't reinforce that basic professionalism is something you should practice in the workplace, then no shit, you're going to have problems appear. And yeah, it could be something like this, which is obviously disrespectful. It could also be someone groping a boob. That has happened at Blizzard. So from Kotaku here, another one. The legacy of Blizzard is all about, you're working at Blizzard, aren't you lucky? But the reality is we were constantly dealing with difficult people in a culture that cares little for mental health and expects the same kind of smile all the time as retail does, one anonymous tester said. The only way for this to truly change is to change the culture and the attitudes of the people in charge. Absolutely is the case. And, I mean, I've heard anecdotes of just the people who basically live at the campus get real weird. Real weird. Now, look, I've been to the Blizzard campus. Wasn't really as cool as I was expecting it to be, honestly. I don't know. That aside, I could because looking around me, and especially from the perspective of, being not America, right? Somewhere where towns arose in a very different manner. And I'm just looking around, seeing an endless sea, a massive urban sprawl of like all of these prefabs and chain restaurants and stuff. And I thought, oh, bloody hell, I could totally see how I'd live in the office if I was here. And indeed, people who live in that area have said to me, like, yeah, that is kind of what it's like. Though I should say there are very nice parts of that region that people have since showed me, and I was very glad to be able to see that. But point stands, you just have all these people living in the office. And that can lead to weird, screwy things. So yeah, screwy things going on. QA people being treated like shit. What's new?
I mean, this is the thing. It shows how bad a state it is that you've got Bloomberg, Kotaku, and Polygon all coming out with. I mean, there's decent overlap in stories, but a lot of them have unique sources, unique people speaking to them, which goes to show that the teams are singing like canaries now. They know they're no longer like, the spell's been broken. Like the charm that Blizzard have over them as they employ them seems to be actually shattered now, to the point where they're going, well, obviously more voices that come out will mean there's less culpability and less chance of you getting got if they're busy, as opposed to whistleblowing any other time. But now you've got 3 independent places going, here's, we're getting these people coming to us and telling us all these stories. It shows it's like just the employees have had enough. And I think that's like kind of obvious with everything that's been like said through here. But it's like specifically the seeming lack of common decency in some members of the team is something that it actually reminds me of what we were talking about the other day with the idea of the gaming addiction stuff from the UK press. And it's just that idea of that's probably not necessarily like a really deep problem that someone thinks that way. It's likely a manifestation of them, like under what circumstance would someone not have that common decency for another person, especially someone they work with? Like, what state do you have to be in to treat someone poorly in that sense, or to make fun of them, or anything like that? And the only like logical answer I can come to in my head is because that person's probably also suffering massively by virtue of living in that job, being in that job.
Basically, what we're pulling it back to high school.
Yeah, it's just the idea of these people aren't happy. They're not getting paid enough. They have to share an apartment with 3 people despite being grown adults working in the video game industry. How do you expect anyone to do good work or show up at work the next day and go, I'm happy to be here. Great. Hello, everyone. Hello, all of my dearest esteemed colleagues. Let's get cracking on some great content today. They're going to be going in, they'll be tired, and they'll just be like, I fucking hate everyone in this office. When can I get out of here? And that's going to be the thought process built by this culture. And there's like, it's a problem that they've built from the ground up by treating their QA like shit, by treating their customer service staff like shit. Yeah. And it's just those rotten seeds will, they will sprout stuff all over the company, and it clearly has.
Yeah. For bad things going on, there's our final quick little segment, which I'll just cover here, which is the old owl has lost even more sponsors. So Kellogg have confirmed that basically they're cancelling sponsors for this year, but they're going to keep on reviewing progress to see if any progress has been made, at which point maybe they'll put their sponsors back on. IBM also appear to be out, but they've not made a statement, though their ads have been suspended and their branding's been removed from the Overwatch League website, and the Overwatch League page has been removed from the IBM website, so seems like we know what's going on there, which leaves only 3 sponsors still live on the Overwatch League website. One is Coca-Cola, and they recently said they'll be working with their partners at Blizzard as they take a step back for the moment, so they're not out, but they're definitely not actively sponsoring right now. Although, it's that thing, old Bobby, CEO of Activision Blizzard, on the board for Coca-Cola. Who knows how it's going to go, but obviously that's more bad things going on, especially considering that the Overwatch League is a pretty important thing, maybe not for the players of Blizzard games, but certainly for their investor narrative. And when we see stuff like this happening, it does not give people confidence, especially when I think at least one of the sponsors also did drop from the CDL.
Yeah, I think that's going to be it. The story of the Owl, historically, after Overwatch, maybe Overwatch 2 can salvage it in some capacity, but I feel like the overarching narrative of the Owl from a retrospective stance will be this was a scam and a failure, I think. Yeah. Which, it's a pretty heavy wording, but in terms of how much actual revenue it generated versus how much they were pumping it up for sponsors and taking investment from teams with no solid plan to return, I feel like this is kind of like the false narrative could completely deflate and never come back unless Overwatch 2 is a roaring success. But, I mean, we've also heard it's potentially, it's rumored to be moving into 2023 potential release.
Those are so insane to me.
I mean, there's even worse rumors, but they're utterly pointless to discuss the stupid stuff. But just the idea of they've got 3 sponsors left. One of them is one that Bobby's on the board of, so they're going to hang around likely because he's got that influence there. I see the others are Xfinity and TeamSpeak, and I feel like they probably aren't massive sponsors or major sponsors.
No.
Versus the ones that are the American food companies that are probably just going to throw money hand over fist.
I think Kellogg's have more money than TeamSpeak.
I would certainly hope so.
Just, yeah. So, rough time for Blizzard. This is the sort of reckoning that you set yourself up for if you don't deal with problems early on. You don't actively think about leadership and culture from the earliest days of your company. And that basically is what happened to Blizzard, and what we're now seeing is the ripple effects of that carried forth over 20 years, and now finally the reckoning happening, that reckoning being a little bit delayed because of the Blizzard culture, the fan mentality. Now it's all happening. Of course, there's nothing more that I want, actually, than World of Warcraft to be great, Diablo 4 to be great, Overwatch 2 to be great, and for there to be lots of great games that we can all enjoy playing and that their staff can all enjoy making. Hopefully, this big reckoning moves us closer to that. There's every reason to believe that Activision taking more control is not a good thing, though, so we'll just have to wait and see. But I think that is it for this video today. Of course, there are many other videos on this channel because me and Matt are busy boys.
That we are.
Yep. We do enjoy making content for you. I think roughly we're getting close to our 45 videos a week, which is quite fun. So, yeah, keep it cool, everybody. We'll see you next time.